We're integrators. How many integrators do we have out here? All right, some friendly faces, some guys that know what it's like to go out and beat their heads against the wall. I appreciate that. Our bit here today is about doing what is now called the Wisconsin Convention Center in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. In the program guide, you saw something about the Frontier Airlines Center, and well, during the course of our work there, it went from being the Frontier Airlines Center to the Delta Center to they just couldn't find a sponsor anymore. So it's now, there weren't any more airlines coming in or out of Milwaukee at that time. So it became the Wisconsin Convention Center, and that's actually what we're getting into. And our thing is, Dante, it works. I mean, it just works. We don't have to think about it too much. Metro Sound, we're primarily a house of worship contractor. It's really kind of our passion. We like live performance audio. We like presentation video. And so consequently, this has kind of been who we are for many years. Milwaukee Metro Sound was the original name of the company. Basically, we did some nightclubs, a couple restaurants, sound system in a nursing home, chapel type thing. And as the years went on, we became Metro Sound, and we grew into doing churches. Churches was a great market. We love churches. There's always money in churches. Times are bad, people go to church. Times are good, people go to church. It's a great market. And it also allows us all to be able to realize the passions that we have, which is either live audio or presentation video, and so it's something we really get into. We're a family-owned business. Literally, that's it. And literally, I think there are 4 guys in that picture that actually were on this project. But our primary market focus is AV technology for worship, and that's where we go from there. Let's go into our background with the Wisconsin Center District. The original installation, a lot of you guys, well, integrators anyway, have seen the world famous FSR ML series ballroom combiners. It's become, or had been, at least anyway, the industry standard in how do we put meeting rooms together. We've got this big thing, and we can actually push the little white button, and it combines rooms and nifty things like that. And if a switch goes out, it's a mechanical thing. So we actually have to take the thing apart and service it, which on a convention center is kind of fun, actually. One of the other nifty technologies that we ran into over there was, you see this paging panel. This is how they access the paging system. In order to page from, let's say, the security dock to one of the ballrooms to say, hey, we got another truck coming in, or something of that nature, you had to turn a key. You see the little on-off. You had to turn the key, hold the key, and press the button at the same time and hold it. And then you had to put the mic on your shoulder and key it. Now, this is actually not that uncommon for that era, although kind of quite inconvenient. So how does a church contractor wind up with a convention center? It's not usually in our the sort of thing we're looking to do. But with churches, they work on weekends. That's where the money's made. So we work on weekends too. We're the only contractor in the state of Wisconsin that offers 24/7, 365 service. And granted, you don't always get the happiest guy picking up the phone on a Sunday morning at 8 o'clock. However, we also realize that in order to continue to thrive in our marketplace, we have to be able to meet the needs of our clients. And so the Wisconsin Center District found us. The Wisconsin Center District is a kind of an interesting private, not private corporation. that encompasses, well, it was the U.S. Cellular Arena, and at one time it was the Mecca Arena where the Milwaukee Bucks of the NBA used to play. When I moved to town in the 80s, it was still the Bucks' home. The Wisconsin Convention Center, which is right in the center there, and then the Milwaukee Theater, which is a major performing arts spot. And they needed to be able to work all the time. Because let's think about it. You're a convention center. If your systems don't work and you've just charged somebody $1,000 to use your overhead sound system, well, your client's going to start asking for money back. And if it rolls uphill, if you know what I mean, from there. But so either which way, we took the task on just simply because there was really nobody else in the area who could deal with it. I was the last human being left in the audio industry in the southeast Wisconsin who had anything to do with the original installation at all anyway, even though it was a previous employer. Design and build on the fly. We get the contract. And we start the process. And of course, one of my first thoughts anytime I get a big project is, okay, we got the bid. What were we thinking? We now have to figure out how to fit about a 2.5-month project in the middle of our already busy church life. The Metro Sound norm is we roll in on a Monday. By Friday, we're training and turning over a new sound system to a client every week of the year. That's what we do. So you're going to see me on a Monday morning. You're going to see Corey roll the guys in. And at the latest, Friday afternoon, you're going to have the keys to your new car, so to speak. So consequently, we were very adept at working quickly and basically jumping from one thing to another so that we could actually get all of these tasks accomplished to get this up and rolling. The original installation took the firm I worked for at that time over a year to complete. And granted, at that point, we're also pulling wire, we're putting speakers in, building the racks, the whole 9 yards. With our work, we were strictly doing the head end. And that meant basically just replacing all the old FSR combining panels, replacing a very old X-frame system that we were waiting to watch it go into hieroglyphics. And those who have worked with the X-frames over the years know what the hieroglyphics are. Just all of a sudden the display goes, wow. And you can't talk to it anymore. And that's I think one of the most exciting parts of digital processing is that, hey, when it goes, it goes. That's all there is to it. It's gone. And the only way to replace that is now. The Wisconsin Center gave us kind of an interesting curveball. It can only be down for 1 month. And you can understand that. You've got a busy Major League City convention center. The idea of blacking the entire space out for a month, that's a lot of revenue. That is a ton of revenue. I would guesstimate that they probably lost $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 a day by having that space down for the month. But the alternative was, what if it goes down and they have no plan in place? And that was eventually going to happen. And what really pushed the whole thing forward was the local utilities company had to do a big transformer changeover, and consequently they had to shut the block down. And the old X-frame didn't come back up. Oh boy, was that exciting. The phone calls, I cannot tell you how busy I was on this that day. And then eventually we just kind of rebooted it one more time, and oh, hey, it's working again. So at that point, the client said, Keith, we've got to do something. But yet, it's kind of a private, kind of a public, kind of one of those weird, new, modern civic organizations that run something like this. So where you can normally privately negotiate with my churches, I had to go through a whole bid process, and then they had to find a consultant, basically. Somebody has to design the system, because if you're going to bid on it, I've got to have something to bid towards, which got to be very exciting. We're going to run through, these are some of the cast of characters. So these are all the different things I had to do, and you guys as integrators, particularly project managers, site supervisors, you understand exactly what I'm saying here. It's like we have to wear all these hats all the time. There's nobody else to wear them. We have to continue to drive our projects. The other guys I really got to tip my cap to is my buddy Sean Jones, who's an independent programmer with Top Shelf Technologies, because as we finally got the contract, we had, 2 weeks? 3 weeks? 3 weeks to mobilize. Order the equipment, get it in, start work. You know, it was even more fun. I went on vacation for the last 2 weeks. So, hey, it was scheduled. What am I going to do? And Sean is just one of the most talented independent audio programmers in the Midwest. Just a fun guy. Anybody looking for somebody, talk to me. My other guy, Corey Goebel, was my project manager, lead technician. I can't even not begin to tell you that without a quality on-site leader, the guy in the office is nothing. Although this was kind of a different scenario, because
his office was on site with us the entire time.
Yeah, it was, and much to the chagrin of the home office, who just had to surrender me for that couple months, because there was no way I could basically engineer and design that project without being on site. The other guys that I love dearly, Tim Murray, my regional manager for Symmetrics, and if you haven't guessed yet, this was an all Symmetrics project. Every ounce of processing was the new Radius processors using the Composer platform, and we'll get into more of that. And our friends at Borman Marketing, our Midwest regional reps for Symmetrics, because again, those players worked the scenes behind things, because if I was going to do the convention center, I wanted to do it with my product that I normally use on a daily basis. And so basically Borman and Tim from Symmetrics worked with the Wisconsin Center to try and get them to wrap their hands around the Symmetrics platform. And we're going to go into this nifty little section. I'm going to turn it over to my good buddy Corey here for a moment.
And part of the challenge we had on this was there wasn't really a consultant. There wasn't a set of prints that matched what happened in the field. Not even close. All the planning and all the drawings that we had done previously until showing up on site were thrown out the window the first day. Labels didn't match on the original install. Stuff had gotten moved by the Wisconsin Center during the 15 years from the original install. We had to do all of it on the fly.
And you can't tell me there's an integrator in this room, maybe not a convention center, but we've all done this. It goes back to what was I thinking?
It's one thing to do it on a week-long project, but when you walk in and you have 5 or 6 racks full of equipment, the problem we had is you could not find what their original drawing said. It was one of the most challenging things to not work off a drawing on something this size that was accurate.
Well, and so each and every day we redesign the system, literally, each and every day. Client would come to us with a different parameter that we didn't talk about that? Oh, we really need that. Well, it's in our nature as Metro Sound and Video to accommodate, and particularly when we think we can do it. Why not? Why not? It's a challenge in software programming, hardware implementation. But basically, as Corey mentioned, the drawings didn't match, everything down the drain and out the window.
It was a dream come true. I mean, it was literally, there were times where I was telling him what to put on the drawing as we were doing it. There was no other choice. We had to.
And that's...
We made it work.
Yeah, and that's where the teamwork came in, because Sean had to listen to the two of us sitting there throwing things at each other going, what do you mean it doesn't do that? What do you mean this wire isn't here? I pulled it 20 years ago, type thing. And so in the meantime, Sean, who's programming away going, are you serious? I'm losing about 8 to 10 hours just with this last 15 minutes of conversation. And it's like, so constantly we were redesigning and re-implementing our thoughts in creating this system.
This is one of the most fun parts. Halfway through the project, the client comes up and says, we want to replace the emergency paging. Start over again. Basically, the site file had to be made from scratch. We had to figure out what the old system was doing. Some of it worked, some of it didn't. We needed to make it work. One of the big questions we had is, did we have enough copper in place to do what we needed to do with the emergency paging? Turns out we didn't, so we had to pull it. It was just another one of those parameters that changed, that when you don't have a consultant and your scope of work was ever-changing, became quite a challenge. It was also one of those curveballs that kind of took us by surprise when you're halfway through the project. 2 weeks in, when we need to do this, you can imagine we're standing there going, okay, we can do it for you. Now how do we do it?
Well, one of the interesting things about the emergency paging, which was also their backstage communication, which if you'll recall that slide I threw up earlier where you have to turn and hold the key, push the button, and key the mic on your shoulder type thing. Well, they didn't want to do that anymore. So we had to figure out a way to turn the key, hold the button, and key the mic with just pushing a button and then grabbing a microphone. Boy, that seemed like a pretty simple idea today. And we created this our own page matrix, basically, by just using a simple matrix in one of our Symmetrics processors. We actually threw another radius into the design to strictly handle all paging communication. And it was kind of ridiculously easy once we got started, because our big thing initially was VoIP or telephone access, or gee, how do you want to do this? And we were just pulling our hair, okay, I was, and trying to figure out, how is this going to happen? And they were like, well, can't we just use the microphones we already have? You don't want to VoIP this. Well, we actually don't have a VoIP phone system here yet, but we're working on that. Oh. Sure, so basically, it's just a bunch of microphones on wall plates with a couple little push buttons and away you go. It was insanely simple once we got into it, until we actually had to make the wall plate controllers to activate the preset to actually page from the dock or page from the security office into different portions of the facility. But enough about copper. It's still there. Synergy between componentry. Symmetrics and Metrosound go back pretty much to the beginning of their designer DSP era. We grew up through Cobra Flex, and probably like 99% of us integrators out there, we were pretty stinking happy with Cobra Flex. The idea that we could actually send digital audio over a Cat5 cable was just pretty phenomenal, particularly we could do what, 32 by 30? Man, that was pretty happening. But in the convention center, we've got more rooms than that. And so we need more Dante flows going. We need to actually be able to send audio from, well, we just have 44 meeting rooms. And then there are, as you can imagine, in a convention facility, all sorts of other areas that you have to incorporate. And so we kind of need to be able to not only control and process all those rooms individually on their own as we're meeting in them, or tying in the pre-function areas into your meeting rooms and things like that, and having a nice slick way. With the old FSR system, again, it's hold the button, key. With our new symmetric system, it's very literally done so much simpler. But what's in there for hardware? We've got 16 radius 12 by 8s, and we've got an additional XN12s, and basically an XN12 is a 12 input expansion unit, and via Dante we bring that into our main site file and tie them all together. There were 8 Netgear smart switches. I couldn't tell you the model number because I'm sure 5 seconds after I ordered them, they were discontinued or had new model numbers, and I think all of us integrators really appreciate the network switch world, and sure wishes they could probably, maybe kind of figure out a way to rock solid their business a little more model-wise. We also had 7 SurgeX power conditioners because, let's just admit it. Stuff isn't as built like a tank like it used to be. It can't be. In order to meet manufacturing processes, basically, I think we've all seen those big old tanks slowly start to become lighter, more economical. And so let's just be honest, there's not the shielding level that there used to be in some of the early DSPs. But then again, a lot of times we don't seem to need them as much. But it does bring up the concept that power conditioning and power protection is paramount, because these guys are not going to take the blast that an old, say, an old X frame would take, or an old Greenie sound web that might be able to take a little bit of a power surge and still be there tomorrow. Now, one of the other people who are actually in on this project, and if you guys will take a quick look down in this nifty little corner, Atlas Sound, who is also one of the sponsors of this event, we use all of their nifty little DAs, and they've been incredibly clean, incredibly quiet, and very reliable as well. Software. Simnet uses the Composer software platform for their new Radius devices and Edge devices. It's very easy to work in. It's very intuitive. One of the things that we wished the software was capable of when we began the project was, wouldn't it be nice if we could type in the name of an input or an output and it just kind of self-populates across the board? We estimated that we probably could have saved ourselves maybe almost a week of labeling. And Symmetrics Listen, all of their stuff now does that, and it was very convenient on current projects that we can actually move along like that. But the site files were pretty intense. I mean, this is the convention center. The entire thing is sitting right on this one single solitary site file. Also, the other bit of software that we incorporated was Symmetrics SimView, which is a remote control technology that we'll cover in a little bit too. Hardware switches. Has anybody really done a big audio Dante install where you're using more than, say, 8 or 10 units? Got one there. Well, as you well know, that switch has to work. I mean, it cannot drop packets. One of the things we really have to tip our hat to is the concept that this stuff works. I don't know if you guys have gotten that yet, but Dante, it works. And it just keeps working. We kind of like that. Makes our life as audio guys much simpler. One of the other things that was kind of interesting was coordinating with the client's IT people for Wi-Fi access, because we need to be able to hit control of this system via Wi-Fi from various parts of the building. Integrators, how much fun is it to work with a facilities IT group? Because they really get audio and they get video, do they not? Yes, they completely do. So after about, I don't know, 40, 50 hours of meetings on don't worry about it, man. Just give us access. Just you secure it however you want. Just give us access. We don't need to talk about this anymore. We need access. And so a lot of tooth pulling and went on to be able to get ourselves on the Wi-Fi there, because of course nobody can really understand why we really need to be on there. Audio flow reliability. Getting back to what does a convention center expect? Okay, so I'm a convention center. I just rented this room out for, I'm gonna ballpark, $7,500. And I need a sound system. Okay, well, we'll rent you the in-house for $1,000. And my client is now, well, let's say my client's Harley Davidson, which was the number one client of the, and still is number one client of the Wisconsin Center. So they're dropping big ching for this, and serious money. And the sound system doesn't work. What's the first thing that happens? They go to the event manager, they want their $1,000 back. The event manager goes to the presentation company who manages the daily operation of the audio video systems in a convention center. They go, we want our money back. The presentation guys go to the IT people who actually govern the audio video systems in that facility, and they go, we want our money back. And the IT director calls me and he goes, Keith, I want our money back. And so consequently, again, it's one of those things that keeps flowing uphill or downhill depending upon, where you sit in the grand scheme of life. So it's not like, hey guys, sound system doesn't work, just talk real loud. It's somebody just lost a lot of money. Somebody is not going to come back here next year because their AV work was horrible or not up to par or just plain they had a problem. Why should I come here? I'm going to go to another facility next year where I've always had good experience. And so that ties into the name and reputation of the facility. So that rolls back to us. It ties into our name, our reputation. In order to serve a convention center, it's similar to serving a church. We have to make sure you run all the time. If you're not running, you're losing money. So am I. So that's pretty much where we get to with that. Primary and secondary. If you're not hooking the secondary up on your Dante audio devices, you're absolutely crazy. It's a wonderful safety net. It still shocks me on some devices to only see like a primary Dante jack coming out, just simply because I'm an old school audio guy. I've got 5 of the same screwdrivers. I've got 3 of the same crimpers sitting in my bag at all times because, well, what if I lose it? I gotta have a backup. And it's and what, again, since we come from the live sound world or the live production world, it's one of the things we take real seriously is redundancy, backup, being prepared. And one other point, and I kind of want to really circle this one. Troubleshooting Dante. We didn't. Not a bit. We looked at the Dante flows, just because we had about 20, 30 minutes and thought, well, let's take a look at this. Okay, it works. All right, we're done with that. So we had no troubleshooting at all. It just functioned.
As far as controlling the system, we had 44 ARCs. They provided local room control. We also had ARC Web that you could log on with wireless anywhere in the facility and go ahead and control it. We had 4 or 5 custom paging panels throughout security, dock paging, behind house stuff. That pretty much
Turnkey, hold button, keep mic.
you did not have to do the turnkey. But that was control of the system. We did do SimView too, which allowed them behind house to combine uncombined rooms rather quickly, easily. It made it streamlined for them.
And going into SimView, this is our control surface. Basically, we can create a virtual mixer control system of our choosing. It simplifies the user interface. Some examples of some of our control screens, if you'll recall some of the images of the FSR room combiners, these have taken place of it, and it's click of a mouse or it's a push of a button, depending upon whether they're using a touch screen or just a laptop to actually control it. And again, a few more of them. We've got our large matrices that are floating around. That's how we actually connect any room with any room. And we've got sub-layers to this too, but we keep that away from the standard users. Some audio flow mixer or audio flow metering, which was very handy. Once upon a time, they had the old room monitor panel in the racks where you could actually push a bunch of buttons and actually listen into the rooms. Well, they really weren't interested in listening to the rooms, or the presentation services company wasn't. They just wanted to know something was going. So we didn't have to duplicate an oral monitor. They just wanted visual monitors, and it worked pretty well. So what did we accomplish? Well, we do churches. Again, I stress that. But our experience in delivering large systems and short timelines for worship really paid off for us on this project. We did a full design build on the fly, and as Corey and I have reiterated several times, it was completely on the fly. The systems requirements, the hardware, it just keeps working. We've not been back. I haven't been back since May of last year, I think, something like that. So it must be working, because trust me, they'd call me if it didn't. So we've had a pretty entertaining story here, but the bottom line is this. We just plugged this thing in, and it worked. We didn't massage it. We didn't ask for favors to make this happen. We didn't spend hours on the phone with the guys at Audinate trying to get these big audio flows to go passing clean and clear and reliably. We just plugged it in, and it just simply worked. Dante also will be meeting the needs of a future expansion. In the next few years, the Milwaukee area is going to be the new home to a new arena for the Milwaukee Bucks NBA team. And at the same time, the Wisconsin Center has big plans to double the size of the facility. And thanks to Dante, we're going to be able to grow with that in design. And then I think that's about it. I'm going to just say that if you want to, we'll talk somewhere during coffee or during lunch. And during lunch, we're going to have an extremely spirited discussion about directional realism in audio. So feel free to join us for that. All righty? Thank you much.